Hello everyone and welcome back to your favourite Formula 1 show. Yes, Jamie and I return a little bit late after the Belgian Grand Prix for more knowing wheel. Now, often in recent times I feel like that has been my fault as much as it has been Jamie's, but normal service has resumed. It is Jamie183 to blame for the lack of a Belgian Grand Prix pre-show. So Jamie, do you want to just quickly explain to us why we are so late?
Why?
Back to the party.
Well, yeah, I was on a summer camp, a church camp, looking after a bunch of teenagers for the week, Saturday to Saturday. So I am feeling very exhausted. This is currently Sunday morning as we record this, and yeah, had a good week, but meant sadly I couldn't find any time to record, and I was also in the middle of the Lake District with very patchy Wi-Fi, so it would have been ropey at the best anyway.
Yeah, and I remember the last podcast we did where you lost internet and we basically couldn't hear each other for about 5 minutes, and it was quite possibly the biggest pain I've ever dealt with trying to edit back one of these shows.
We should go back in the same room again. That was a good one.
That was awful. That was the worst one ever to edit because we could hear each other on both mics. It was terrible. And that's why Jamie and I, you'll never see us in the same room again. Fun fact. But, I mean, yeah, we're going to be a little bit ropey again still, aren't we? Because Jamie decided he's going to have a life over... I mean, who has a life over the Formula 1 summer break? Oh, are you able to record whenever?
I'm back on Monday, yeah. Don't worry about that.
Hey? What?
I'm back by next Monday.
Oh, sorry, I thought you meant tomorrow.
Oh, no. This is it for this week.
Okay, fair enough. So, if Formula 1, if you just want to hold off on any major news, that would be absolutely grand during this. I mean, this will be now where Sargent's dropped and Antonelli's announced to
Sargent's already
Williams.
Dropped, mate.
Well, yeah, but I meant before the end of the year. He's just got to walk out and do a Juan Pablo Montoya or something. I mean that does throw us in quite nicely. Should we talk about Belgium first? Obviously, we're not going to do a full show on Belgium because it was a week ago now. And then obviously we'll kind of go into everything else. So obviously George Russell was the big one. That unfortunate disqualification. They've blamed the tyres. I don't buy that.
I don't buy it at all. I kind of sympathise. I think what the narrative is, he was on such worn tyres that obviously the car was running effectively closer to the ground when the tyres were worn, which inadvertently rubbed away some of the plank, like with friction, up Eau Rouge and that kind of thing. So I think they're basically saying he would have been fine if he did a two-stop, as in the car wouldn't have been underweight.
But they were also blaming like the tyre, like rubber falling off, weren't they?
Yeah, my brother actually had a good point on this. Who isn't actually an F1 fan but used to watch it like 15 years ago. Basically said Belgium doesn't have an in-lap, so they don't get to pick up rubber.
Yeah, but it also means you don't have to use all that fuel doing an in-lap like you do everywhere else.
I suppose. And it was 1.5 kilos, wasn't it? He was underweight, which is a black and white disqualification. There's no alternative to that. And to be fair, I was saying to some people that like he probably wouldn't have won if he wasn't underweight, because like I remember when Nico Rosberg lost his leg muscles over the summer in 2016 to win the championship. He was saying like every kilo is like half a tenth or like quarter of a tenth or something that you can lose from your body. So back then when the driver weight was included, that helped. So 1.5 kilos over a race distance is like a couple of seconds. So like he won, obviously he was right ahead of Hamilton and Piastri. So at best, with 1.5 kilos extra on his car, he probably would have been third. Like he could have easily been fourth or fifth as well.
Yeah, I think that one obviously is a little bit more speculatory, isn't it? It's a bit difficult to kind of call that as well. I mean, I think annoyingly at the end of the day, wasn't it? It was actually the perfect advertisement for Pirelli that weekend, wasn't it? About how different strategies can work and make the racing exciting. And then, of course, it was immediately ruined. Do you know the last time a driver was disqualified for an underweight car, Jamie183? A fun little not the real quiz.
Underweight. Oh, I actually don't think I do.
It's probably longer ago than you think, is the interesting bit here.
Yeah, I was thinking, like, there must be some irrelevant... Like, what was it Hamilton and Leclerc were disqualified for? It wasn't that, was it?
No, that was plank wire.
Yeah, I have no clue.
You're completely on the wrong wavelength as well. It wasn't a backmarket car. It was Robert Kubica at the 2006 Hungarian Grand Prix.
I don't think I would have ever got that. Didn't he finish in the points in that?
I think it was debut race, and I think he came like P4 or something from like 7th on lap 1.
Yeah.
Or something absolutely wild. But yeah, we obviously disqualified from that race. It doesn't happen often. And the kind of, even as someone that is a Mercedes fan, I kind of, read all this, it was the tyre wear, it was the tyres that then wore the plank. I was there going, no, you've just cocked up here, haven't you, and just can't bear to admit it. Because what I reckon happened, and of course, obviously, we don't really know for sure still, is obviously they bolted on new upgrades on Friday, didn't they? Didn't get the results they wanted from them, so just thought, right, we'll remove those from the car and just go back to the old spec. I think that's where they messed up and forgot to put ballast back in on George's car.
Yeah, maybe.
Which ultimately, was the difference between going into the summer break with a 1-2 or just going into the summer break with Lewis Hamilton with win 105. But let's be fair, Mercedes, basically from Spain, have really turned it around, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. Obviously, Russell's picked up 2 poles.
2 poles in that time.
3 wins between them in that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they've had 6
Could have
podiums
been
in a
4
row right now. Yeah, crazy stuff. Obviously, it should have been a 1-2 here if they forgot to, if they actually put the ballast back in or whatever it was. But yeah, like Red Bull are quite fortunate that everyone else is taking points off each other. Because
absolutely.
It is protecting them quite well, because Perez isn't protecting them very well at all. Despite, I thought he was on for a winner when he qualified on the front row. Somehow Leclerc got pole in a car that was nowhere near pole worthy.
Did you think he was on for a winner? Because you didn't predict that last week.
No, but after qualifying, I was like,
fair enough,
okay,
yeah.
Perez should win this, or at least get a podium. And then he went and finished 7th.
Well, he was going to be 8th, wasn't he? He was going to be last of the front-running teams. I mean,
and you've got to be doing better than that. Well, it sounds like they're going to keep him, which they shouldn't be. But yeah,
I mean, this is a bigger point, isn't it? Throughout the second half of the show, we're going to be talking once again about all the potential driver moves and rumours and transfers and everything. But I'd argue, that Belgium was a worse race than Hungary was for him.
Yeah,
and Hungary moved forward. Belgium basically just went to last of any car that it would have been acceptable to finish behind, or not even really acceptable, but still.
Yeah.
The idea that
Norris
he beat
is
no
bottle
one
job
he should
again.
have. Lando Norris is a bottle job again. I mean, I do love the idea that all this stick he's given Hamilton over the years, it's really easy to win all the time when you've got the best car. And obviously, he just simply... Well, the fact that Lewis has had more wins this year than Lando has had in the last 6 years of motorsport is insane.
And the only drivers to have won more than one race are Hamilton and Verstappen, which is quite
Exactly. Which,
yeah.
I mean, I don't think you could argue they are still the 2 best on the grid.
Yeah, I'd say that quite easily. Yeah, I thought Norris off day, basically. He had a chance to get some points on Verstappen, drove into the gravel at turn 1, and that was that, really, wasn't it? So, yeah, Max did well, I thought, from P11. The days are gone where he's going to be winning from 15th, as he said.
15th?
Yeah. It's good for the sport. It's very good for the sport. We're in a happy
place
absolutely.
Right now. Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, a lot of people go, it's too difficult to overtake at Belgium. Max doesn't have, the car advantage. And you're kind of going, well, no, there's got to be a fine balance of...
There was a car advantage anyway. Over the
but he had a small car advantage. He got pole by 0.6 of a second. He quite clearly still had, the best car / driver setup that weekend. I think it was a combination of... Perez ended up on the front row. I think it was a combination of both. I think Red Bull had the best car this last weekend.
Yeah.
But not by a ridiculous amount where he can qualify P14 and be leading by the end of the first stint. That was the problem over the last couple of years, which obviously Red Bull would do here, was obviously just... You start at the back, and just make your way to the front before the first stint's even over, and then it's basically normal service resumes. That's what is boring. It's the fact that, had he absolutely nailed everything, maybe could have got a podium. Had there been a couple of things where he got a little bit lucky as well, perhaps.
Yeah.
But the idea that obviously
he should have at least beaten Leclerc.
But
yeah.
Yeah. But obviously on a weekend like that where you can't just get back to the front with ease is, because there will be occasions where he might be able to do that, and that'll be a good race. But it shouldn't just be guaranteed every week.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people were saying.
Had a problem in qualifying, starting 15th. Well, I guess he'll be second by...
Yeah, it'll be fun to watch him come through in the first 10 laps of the race.
Yeah. Yeah, but it was a good race. We should do the admin bits for completion.
We should.
So, I predicted George Russell to be
What are the scores first, Jamie? What are the scores?
Oh, yes. The scores, you were 2 ahead of me, 50 to 48.
I feel like we're getting better with these each year.
George Russell on pole. Didn't happen.
Nil point.
Lando Norris win.
Nil
Didn't
point.
happen. George Russell, second place.
Nil point.
Very nearly an absolute boss call, but sadly not.
Hang on a minute, he was gonna... Yeah.
He came 20th. How's that a boss call? And
I was trying to work out how it was going to be a boss call.
Well, Hamilton should have overtaken him with 10 laps to go, shouldn't he?
Yeah.
Max Verstappen, P3, 0 points. I think that's a duck rarely happens in these predictions.
You got 0.
I will take that. Yes.
You got absolutely nothing from this weekend. Shocking.
I did.
Shocking.
And you almost smashed it.
To be fair, George Russell getting disqualified actually helped you.
It did. It did.
Despite the fact that it meant from 1 to 0. Yeah, I got more screwed.
You got Norris on pole.
Damn it.
Norris win. No.
Damn it.
Lewis Hamilton, P2.
Would have been bang on. Why did Lewis have to win, man?
Yeah, exactly. Hamilton, Piastri, P2 and 3 for you would have been a core and a half.
Yeah.
But they obviously finished 1-2, as everyone should have predicted.
Obviously.
And yeah, so therefore 2 points to you and 0 points to me.
Which, had Russell not been disqualified, you would have got a point and I would have got 4. So
yes.
I actually lost out 1 point because of that to you overall.
Yes.
Because George Russell.
Rating?
I think it had an exciting finish.
Yeah.
It had a lot less overtakes than the year before, but I don't actually feel it was a much worse race than the year before.
Was 2023 wasn't a particularly good race at all, was it?
I don't know, it was kind of just slipstream. I mean, the problem is obviously at Belgium nowadays is it's just the slipstream. I think what they need to do is run DRS at Stavelot all the way up into the final bus stop.
Yeah, that would be good. And then maybe get rid of DRS at the top of the hill because you don't really need it anyway. Like, cars used to overtake there before DRS.
I reckon they need to start considering implementing DRS through sections of track rather than just one straight. You think if you had DRS from Stavelot up into the bus stop chicane, and you kind of go, you can risk it through Blanchimont if you want to, and you have DRS out of La Source all the way up the Kemmel Straight, you go, you can risk it through Eau Rouge if you want to.
I feel like DRS through Eau Rouge would be an awful idea.
Oh, it'd be great. We used to do it on F1 2011, didn't we?
Yeah, when the pad was the grippiest thing known to man.
Well, you didn't play F1 24 and release. It was even quicker.
Well,
Ridiculous.
No,
no, you
race
don't want
rating. I would have put it... Was it? I'm trying to look at the ratings.
What ratings?
7.5. You
it
gave
was a better race than Hungary, wasn't it? Yeah. Well, I
Britain 8.5. You gave it 9.5 because Hamilton.
Well, Lewis Hamilton wins, so it's immediately at least a 9.
I will give Belgium an 8. It was a good race. Intense finish as well. That always.
Yeah.
Nice.
That was exactly what I was going to go with. I think, it was better than Hungary. Well, we basically put it around the same as Austria, haven't we? Slightly worse than Canada.
Yeah, Austria,
I think
Canada,
somewhere between a 7.5 and an 8 is fair.
I feel like we're still waiting for an absolute banger race.
We're still waiting for that, what was Zandvoort last year, what was Silverstone 2022, aren't we?
Yeah.
It's kind of
but the narrative of the season, I will happily take 24 8 out of 10s.
Oh, absolutely.
Rather than a 2011 style where you get 3 10 out of 10s in a boring season.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you kind of look back through the calendar as well. The couple of the ones we had early on, where we were like, it's going to be a Max Verstappen boring year again, and we were kind of rating those quite highly. Yeah. But, I think an 8 either way. So that, I mean, where does that put it? That puts it 3rd best race of the year so far, I think.
Around 3rd.
Below Silverstone and Canada were objectively better races.
Yes, I'm happy with that.
But I think, when you kind of look at the fact that, it was a close fight for the win and things like that, it was a decent week. And it was kind of the weekend Belgium needed as well, because, of course, there's all these rumours, isn't there, that Zandvoort and Belgium could be on a alternating schedule, which I actually got a banging tweet out of, Jamie. I don't know if you saw this.
Really? I didn't.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I do think the way the narrative around Belgium is always like they're finding pennies from anywhere to keep themselves going. So it might actually be a good thing for the company to go down to one every 2 years because it's more cost effective. But it's a shame for the sport.
Someone had tweeted out, obviously, the Dutch Grand Prix at Zandvoort will be swapping around, and I was like, Zandvoort should just be scrapped immediately to save Spa. 4,300 likes, and every Dutch person hated me.
It doesn't take much, does it? I mean, they listen to this podcast once, and that'll be the effect it has.
Reading through some of the comments is good.
But what was your driver of the day?
Oh, sorry, yeah. I mean, Lewis won. No, actually, I'm going to say Oscar Piastri. He probably deserved to win.
Charles Leclerc.
Leclerc went backwards. He started on pole.
Yeah, but he should never have started on pole anyway.
But he's starting on the front row.
The fact
that was like the most Leclerc race in the world.
He got pole and a podium.
Let's not forget, Oscar Piastri completely outclassed Lando Norris, who was meant to be the championship threat. How far behind Lando is Oscar? Like, because Oscar Piastri and Lewis Hamilton are something ridiculous. Like, in the last 8 races, have both scored near enough the same amount of points as Max.
Yeah, pretty much. It's 2 points difference between the top 3 in the last 8 races. Yeah, I think Charles Leclerc to get a pole and a 3rd place in the 4th fastest car this weekend doesn't go unnoticed.
Yeah, okay. I mean, it was tricky conditions, which suits the Ferrari a bit more. So Oscar Piastri is currently 32 points behind Lando Norris. Leclerc, after we gave him so much stick for having that little terrible run of races for like 4 Grand Prix, outside of that, I think genuinely he's been one of the most underrated drivers this year. Like, it seems like every week he just ends up P4, beating pretty much everyone he sensibly could.
Yeah.
And he's P3 in the championship. I mean, he's exactly 100 behind Max. It's a shame Ferrari couldn't find... Well, they might well do for all we know, but can't find, like, a quarter of a second. Because he could probably then just start snookering away victories towards the end of the year, before, of course, he inevitably bottles it.
Yeah, as soon as Leclerc is fighting for a championship, he'll go back to 2022 Leclerc, won't he?
Genuinely, this year he's been... Like we said, apart from those few races where Ferrari absolutely pooed themselves... He's probably been one of, if not driver of this season. Is that a bold call to make?
I think that's pretty bold, to be honest.
But when you look at his results...
I would put Verstappen above him. I'd put Hamilton above. Probably put Russell above. Definitely both McLarens too.
Would you?
Yeah.
Lando Norris has just turned into a bottle job.
But he's still good though, isn't he? He's bottling because he can only bottle when he gets into positions to bottle, which... For the most part of the season, Piastri hasn't been in those positions that Norris has been. So he has still been very good, and people have been very harsh on him, I think.
So Charles Leclerc then, Jamie, this year, obviously DNF in Canada, that was a technical issue, not really his fault.
But he was P11 when he DNF'd, was he not?
Yeah, Ferrari had messed up the weekend entirely anyway, but still. And then 11th in Austria, he had a crash on lap 1, didn't he? And then just, for some reason, couldn't make his way back. No, he had a crash on lap 1 and just couldn't really do anything for the rest of the Grand Prix. And obviously 14th at Silverstone because Ferrari decided they'd try and stop Redbulls switching them. Apart from that, Spain, P5, worst result of the year. Every other race he's finished 4th or better. That's a very good run.
It is, yeah. He is on a good season.
It's a shame, obviously, you think even if he just finished 5th in those Grand Prix that he... didn't score points, he'd immediately be, 70 behind Max? In fact, the gap would be slightly closer, because obviously he would have beaten Max, I think, in at least one of those, wouldn't he? Austria would have beaten him.
Yeah. But he'd be around Norris, and people are still...
He'd be ahead of... That's my point, he'd be ahead of Norris in a worse car. He'd be a good, 10, 15 points ahead of Norris in a worse car. Through brutal... That'd be with one win. Which I admit, everybody's got one win.
If buts or maybes do.
No, but my point is, of course, if you minus out those 3 terrible... he could still very easily beat Lando by the end of the season.
Oh, yeah.
Just by being a better driver this campaign, is my point.
The Ferrari was better than McLaren for the first 4 races as well, which helped. But we'll digress. Let us know who's had a better season, Norris or Leclerc, and try not to be done by recency bias.
What recency bias?
Leclerc
I'm trying to work. I'm
I'm
trying to work out what you're. Eh?
The last 3 races, Leclerc has been better because Norris keeps messing things up.
Yeah, but Norris just is constantly a bottle job. Like, I'm getting bored of it already. Like, he's not a threat to Max. Like, Oscar Piastri's going to end up second this year, or Hamilton. Like, it's just going to happen, Jamie. You've got to accept it. What we do know is going to happen, though, for 2025, is Carlos Sainz finally has announced he's going to Williams.
Yeah. And you feel like he...
Jamie's clearly happy about that news.
I mean, the first impression is that he doesn't really want to be there. It's the best of what he's got, but we always knew this was the case for him.
Absolutely.
Because he was goal hanging for a space to come out at Mercedes or Red Bull, and as soon as Red Bull were like, "No, we're keeping Perez," which is a separate issue, then he's chosen the best of the bad bunch, and that is Williams.
I think there's a bit more strategy in this than you're allowing him to believe there. I think this is more a question of... I mean, it's still fairly simple, isn't it? But it's basically which team will give him an exit clause at the end of next year.
Oh, yeah.
The other teams were, Audi and Alpine. Obviously, Alpine, for whatever reason, is still looking at the longer term, which apparently now could involve bringing back Nikita Mazepin. I literally saw last night, and I was like, that's enough Twitter for one day. Apparently, what's it, High-Tech's boss? I can't remember what his name is. But he should tell you everything... No. The actual High-Tech boss, not like the F2 team principal or anything. Oh, no, wait, no, you are right, I think. Because what's his name?
Team principal just get announced at joining Alpine. I can't remember what his name is.
What's his name? It's Tom something. I think you are bang on, aren't you? Because I kind of forgot that happened.
Yeah,
Oliver Oaks.
Every week.
So it's Oliver Oaks that's High-Tech GP boss. He's become Alpine team principal, but who's the High-Tech owner?
Mazepin was actually quite good when he drove for High-Tech and F2 just before debuting. Well, I say good, he was alright. He was still an absolute menace. But, Alpine and Audi. Audi certainly weren't going to give him a 1+1. Alpine may have done, but then why would anyone want to get in bed with Alpine right now? And then Williams, very sensible team principal. They're realistic with that. Like, they shouldn't have a driver lineup this good for where they are. They've just, like, kind of fallen into it. And it's kind of all, it's all gone well for Williams to have the potential to even sign Sainz. So giving a 1+1 was probably the compromise that was like, we either get Sainz for a year, or 2 maybe, or we don't get him at all. So that's the choice. And he's gone probably for a 1+1. I think it's a multi-year, but effectively...
Yeah, you've got the option to get 25. Out.
Yeah,
exactly. So going back to Alpine and Mazepin and everything, it is Oliver Oaks. For some reason, I was adamant the guy's name was Tom out of my head. It should tell you everything you need to know when, obviously, after the Yuri Vip scandal, he was like, no, I'll keep him on anyway, don't really matter. And then, obviously, he's dealt with the Mazepins for years as well. You kind of tell he's a man that'll take money from absolutely anywhere. But... apparently, it could be that Mazepin comes back with Alpine. Which, bearing in mind, comes a few days after it's been apparently rumoured that Alpine could be sponsored by OnlyFans. It's like, just sell the team to Andretti. Come on.
Yeah.
Just give it up.
On the people who do the videos, I mean, this is a good one for you to write down, actually. When you take over an F1 team, or an F1 manager, or Formula 1 game, and you try and run it into the ground and just destroy the team.
Yeah.
It feels like watching Alpine over the last 2 years.
10 years. It's just so bad, man. I don't like Formula 1 have got to be looking at this, going, we won't let Andretti in because we don't think they're going to be good enough. Like, Alpine is just a bunch of clowns, isn't it? It's so frustrating. Because the thing is as well, and this is just a completely random little point, I genuinely love the Alpine A110. I think Alpine as a brand is so cool.
I've driven one of them. No, I've been a passenger on one of them.
Yeah, I was going to say, you haven't driven it, have you? But it's just like the whole Formula 1 team is in such disrepair that I genuinely don't believe it can be fixed anymore. Like, there's only so many 100 race plans or 5-year plans or bringing in this person or bringing in that person. It just doesn't make sense anymore.
No, I totally agree. But they've got a seat that still needs filling, and nobody wants to go there. Other than
apart from
probably
Jack Doohan.
Jack Doohan is looking likely, which I don't mind. You know, he finished second in F2 a couple of years ago. He's in the
in true Zhou Guanyu form.
Yeah, he's cut from the same cloth as Joe, really, where he'll be all right and won't stay forever. But like, people will love him for a year, then they realise, oh, he's not that good. And then we got him.
People love Zhou for a year? I think they were more upset that Oscar Piastri didn't get a seat.
No, people love Joe. When he got points in Bahrain, they were like, oh, he's good.
He got a point.
Really
Let's just make that clear.
And
then he got really bad luck. You mean he showed up to the first race of the year with the only car that was down at the weight limit?
Yeah, but that first half of 2022, he had so much unreliability. It was a joke.
Well, he was also trying to learn as well, wasn't
killed
it?
him at Silverstone.
Well, he didn't actually kill him. He tried to, but he didn't actually.
He tried to. He knocked his confidence. Killed the chassis Joe was confident with.
Knocked his confidence? Are you having a laugh? That's just... Where you plucked that from?
You know, got to clutch what you can get when he's only got,
me.
10 races left in the sport.
You're such a melon.
Yeah, so Doohan's probably going to Alpine.
Yep.
Kimi Antonelli is probably going to Mercedes because
we love it.
Yeah,
we love it.
I don't hate it.
I mean, Sargent seems obviously understandably pretty upset because, of course, obviously it's got to be terrible because obviously sites announced just means no one else is interested, are they? Could we see him do a bit of a Juan Pablo Montoya? Because it's not uncommon, is it, with like IndyCar and NASCAR to poach American Formula One or junior drivers, but just poach him mid-season. But you know, in North America, that kind of thing. Sorry, I don't. Is Colombia South America?
Yes.
Is it actually? Yeah, no, it is, of course, isn't it? Sorry, for some reason I had it in the. It was in the peninsula. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right, aren't you? But you know what I mean. Sorry, but like the Americas. Yes. I don't believe America is the entirety of that half of the world. But where they, you know, obviously like we saw with Juan Pablo Montoya, obviously getting poached by Chip Ganassi for NASCAR mid-season.
It could happen.
But he could genuinely just go, I may as well go there, go to IndyCar, have 6 months to kind of embed myself a few races. And then you could see Antonelli at Williams, maybe, Jamie,
I think you could. I think, had Mercedes been still, P4 every week like they were at the start of the season, in terms of the car order, I think they'd been more keen to put Antonelli into F1, like driving the fourth fastest car, without any running beforehand. I think now they are a front runner again, like properly in there. I think they are quite keen to get him some experience before just jumping in the deep end, because it's going to be a lot of eyes on you. If they're P4, if like Russell's finishing 6th and you're finishing 8th, 9th, then it's not the end of the world. If Russell is winning or coming 2nd or 3rd and you're finishing 8th, 9th,
basically Sergio Perez.
You get slack because you're a rookie, but also it will be a lot more difficult to level in your head, I think, as a driver. So
yeah, and it's a good point, isn't it? That suddenly Merc now potentially... I mean, I think that the fight this year, obviously we spoke a minute ago about the drivers. The fight this year is the Constructors' Championship, isn't it?
Mm.
That's definitely actually looking...
I don't think Mercedes were
you could put it any
good.
way. Oh, no, absolutely not. I mean, what's the gaps now? So it's 42 between Red Bull and McLaren. I mean, that's unless Red Bull suddenly bring a rocket ship to the second half of the year, that's gone, isn't it? Ferrari are only... Well, exactly. Ferrari are only another 21 back off McLaren. There's potential there. I mean, Mercedes... Well, how many points in the last few Grand Prix... I don't know if you can gather this data very quickly for me, Jamie. How many points have Red Bull scored in the last 8 Grand Prix relative to Mercedes? When you remember that when Mercedes have been disqualified... once and had, what was it, 2 extra DNFs? Or 1 extra DNF, isn't it? They could have had another 30-odd points, I would say.
I can't do the maths.
Well, surely you find out how many points Red Bull have scored, each driver's scored, and just add them together.
Red Bull have had 1 podium out of the last 8 possible, which is quite crazy.
Wow.
1 in 4, this last 4 races.
And Mercedes have had 4?
They've had 6 out of the last 8 on the podium.
Is it?
Wait, no, I'm looking at the wrong thing.
No, I was going to say...
No, it's 4 out of 8. They've had 1.
Yeah, but it could have been 6. Yeah. Had Silverstone and Spa. Obviously, George not been DNF and disqualified. Red Bull could unironically finish 4th by the end of the year in constructors.
I don't think they'll lose to Ferrari the way it's going. but I do think they could lose the other two.
Bearing in mind, Mercedes is 79 points behind Ferrari.
I think that will be gone by.
Well, yeah, but I think
later.
it's difficult. It's difficult. But you could make the argument now that if any of these teams bring an upgrade that works for the second half of the year, like it's genuinely a potential four-way scrap. I mean, it's the first time since 1960. Actually, no, that stat got ruined, didn't it, by George getting disqualified? It would have been the first time since 1960 that 4 teams got a 1-2 in a single season, which is mad.
Mercedes probably will get a 1-2.
But they could still do exactly before the end of the year.
And like 8 drivers winning races by round 13 was crazy.
Yeah,
especially since one driver won 7.
Exactly. Yeah, it is impressive, isn't it, this year? We're finally starting to get what these regs should have been about. Yes, and it is good to see.
But we've gone past it. I'm going to re-segue back to the Sainz news.
I was going to talk about Antonelli still, but okay.
And you'll have today's quiz.
Okay.
Because you guessed very similar to what I was going to ask you pre-show.
I don't know what I guessed.
You said, is it name every driver who's driven for Ferrari, McLaren and Williams?
Oh, no.
And that would be a list of 3.
It
so
would.
Not a great quiz.
No.
That would have given you Carlos Sainz, TBC.
Yep.
Give it 6 months.
Alain Prost and Mansell?
And Nigel Mansell.
Yeah.
Yes. What you have to do is name anyone who has been their teammates while they have driven for those 3 teams. Time starts now. A minute and a half.
Heavens. How many answers are there? No, pause the clock, sorry. You gave me no kind of reference marker or anything.
8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. But one's got an asterisk.
Oh?
Technically 2 have an asterisk. But I'll tell you afterwards.
Okay.
Alright, your time starts now.
Martin Brundle.
No.
Ayrton Senna.
Yes.
Not Keke, sorry, Niki Lauda.
Yep.
Jean Alesi.
Mm-hmm.
Riccardo Patrese.
Yep.
Alboreto?
Nope.
No. Oh man, I'm trying to think. This is terrible. Brundle? No, I already guessed that.
You said Brundle.
Yep, that's worrying. John Watson?
Yes.
Oh yeah, there we go. I'm trying to think. Who did
There's big names on here.
Yeah, Keke Rosberg?
Yes.
Yep. Oh man, I mean, technically, they never raced alongside each other, could they?
Yes, they did.
Wait, sorry, Carlos Sainz is included in this.
Yes.
So Charles Leclerc,
yes.
Danny Kvyat, no, he never raced with him, I don't think. Pierre Gasly, no.
Racing at
Julian Palmer.
Teams. Racing
at those 3 teams. Sorry, Lando Norris.
Yeah.
Oh man, who else he raced alongside? Is that it for Sainz? Maybe, I don't know.
5 seconds.
Oh man, this has been terrible.
There's a lot of names on here.
I didn't know what quiz I was doing.
Yeah, when I'm explaining the quiz a minute into your time, that's not a great sign. But the asterisk one was Alex Albon, so I kind of let you off with that.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that doesn't count.
The other
he's
asterisk
never
one
raced with him.
Was because I meant to say full-time teammates, but didn't. But that was
I was going to say because Mansell raced alongside.
So Mansell and Prost raced together, so you were onto the right lines there.
Yeah.
At Ferrari 1 year, so that would have been Mansell and Prost are on the answer list as well.
Wait, what? Hang on a minute. No, I said they were like raced together.
So
they don't
count,
count,
surely. You can have them too.
Okay, thank you.
And then the 2 races that Mansell did at Ferrari before deciding he couldn't be bothered.
No, McLaren, you mean?
McLaren, sorry, was Mika Häkkinen's on the list, but that was.
Oh, of course, yeah. And then, that was why I kept saying Martin Brundle, because for some reason I was adamant that Häkkinen replaced Mansell again, but obviously that wasn't that way round.
So the ones you missed that weren't asterisked, Stefan.
That was a really stupid quiz. Yeah, I wouldn't have got
that. Damon Hill.
I should have got that, but didn't. Wait, that would have been Williams.
Nelson Piquet.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And Gerhard Berger.
Gerhard Berger?
Yes. At, I believe, Ferrari with...
It was definitely Ferrari. Yeah, you're right.
There you go. So you missed a few. I think you got 10 out of 15.
Terrible quiz.
That was a
terrible.
good quiz. I enjoyed
that was a
putting that
terrible quiz. There was so much nuance to it, Jamie. That's not the point of our quizzes. They're meant to be dumb. When do I ask you recite every P3 finisher at the Monaco Grand Prix for the last 18 years or something?
Well, you asked me P2 before.
I did, exactly. That's your next year's quiz. Yeah, going back though to Antonelli at Merc. I mean, could he be announced potentially as to... yeah, apparently he could be announced as obviously a Merc driver for next year at Italy, at Monza, which would be quite cool. Because Italy deserves more decent F1 drivers. Like, they've had absolute stinkers for the last 40 years.
Since about 1960, yeah. Fisichella's probably the best recent one, and he was all right, but again, a good number 2. I'm glad Antonelli will be on the grid. It's quite cool seeing this amount of rookies at once. Obviously, Behrman's already announced.
Well, it was always going to happen, though, wasn't it, after last year where we had none? You always kind of get these waves, don't you?
Yeah. So, obviously, Doohan will come in, probably. Antonelli probably will come in, as well as Behrman. And there could even be one more. There should be one more.
Should there?
Well, Liam Lawson, shouldn't he? Not really a rookie.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I think it's good, though, isn't it? I mean, so... well, this is interesting, isn't it? Because it's not on our notes. But Red Bull, of course, have been very, very interesting with the wording, obviously, of Perez staying on. Could he be dropped after Baku? After Singapore, even.
I forgot he's not on Baku this season.
There's another 1 month break between Singapore and Kota. He's obviously got 2 of his best tracks right there in Baku and Singapore.
Back to back,
against Max. If he doesn't deliver there, could he then be dropped for the final few rounds?
Potentially. The thing is, the deadline was only about Liam Lawson, really, wasn't it? Because if they hadn't given him a seat in the V-Carb or the Red Bull, he was free to go and look for somewhere else for 2025.
If anyone else wants him, though.
I think someone else might want him.
Who do you think wants him?
I think Audi wants him still, if they can get him.
Don't you think they might want Bottas for a year?
Potentially, but...
a little bit of stability?
If the choice is Bottas or Lawson, and you're in the long game, which they clearly are, I do think Lawson's a better bet. But
bold,
I
cool,
think
Jamie183.
They could. Now that, Red Bull saying we're sticking by a driver, that generally means the writing's on the wall. It's like politics. When they say he's not under threat and then he's gone within 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yes. I'd be surprised if Red Bull go back on their word before another race happens.
But apparently they'd already told the Verstappens that Max would have a different teammate come Zandvoort.
Well, that was a narrative. Because Lawson has to be in a seat. The choice is drop Perez or drop Ricciardo, basically.
Which is insane that we went into the summer when Ricciardo could have had a Red Bull or nothing at all.
Yeah, and should have. That was how it was going to go, apparently. I mean, they haven't actually announced Ricciardo, have they?
Well, I don't think they have to. It's kind of more unless he goes.
I guess, yeah.
It's a bit like when Lance Stroll's never been announced at Aston Martin. Or Racing Point, even back in the day. He just rocked up for post-season testing, which we must bring up at least once a month.
Yes, yeah. That'll be our most well-known fact from learning from this podcast. Yeah, I think Sainz has done he's probably done the best of what he had on the table, I think. Antonelli to Mercedes would be cool. I'm worried for him because it's an absolute, he's under a spotlight at a front-running team as a rookie, so you've got to be pretty good straight away, otherwise,
surely Merc.
Months.
If Sargent already knows he's out at the end of the year, surely Merc just throw a few million at him and go lob him in for the rest of the year, man. Have some fun with him. Enjoy him.
I guess. And he's not exactly going to win the F2 title, and it doesn't matter. So
well, F2's just become completely... It's a good job we didn't start doing an F2 podcast this year, because it would have just been every week we rant about Mechachrome.
Yeah.
It's still something I would love to do down the line, because I think obviously there is so much exciting talent further down the roster. It's just painful. And, just painful.
To be honest, all the drivers who should be getting to F1 from that grid probably are getting to F1, other than Gabby Bortoletto, who I think did. Are you
suggesting that necessarily? You don't think Isaac Hadjar or Paul Aaron deserves a go?
I think they've both spent long enough in junior programs and not torn up any trees.
Paul Aaron's not in a junior program.
No, but he was in Mercedes until this year.
I suppose.
I think why would you pick Aaron when you've got Antonelli? That's
no, I know, absolutely. I'm not saying he deserves it over any of them.
Yeah.
But I think there's still quite a few down there that deserve a shot. Yeah, very interesting. Very, very interesting. Last real point then I think we've got this week, Jamie, is Jonathan Wheatley to Audi, which Red Bull and Formula 1 announced, but even now, a few days after the dust has settled, Audi still haven't said anything. It kind of seemed like Red Bull told them you're having Jonathan Wheatley as...
Yeah,
well, team
and
principal,
this is quite
isn't it?
sad. Like, Wheatley is synonymous with Red Bull for me.
He's been there since the start.
He was the one who won Verstappen the championship by
He
getting
was,
Michael
exactly.
Massey to bottle it.
Yeah. Peer pressure.
Which I don't blame Wheatley for. He's doing his job, but
well, it's not really his job, but yeah, I know what you mean, though.
Well, you know,
you can't blame him.
Do the best for Red Bull that he can, and that's exactly what he did.
Well, he's sporting director, Jamie. Would you claim that final lap was very sporting?
Well, it doesn't matter.
Can't even argue against it.
But yeah, Jonathan Wheatley. It was said early season when all the what's he called, Christian Horner stuff was going on, that Wheatley was in line for Red Bull team principal. So that was quite surprising. That now, when the fallout actually does happen, which we're still kind of waiting for 6 months later, you know, their makeshift, or what am I trying to say? Their natural replacement for Horner is now gone. So I don't know what they're going to do if they do have to sack Horner when the reports come out and all that. So
it's going to be Hannah Schmitz as team principal.
It can't be Hannah Schmitz as team principal. She's a strategist.
Well, that's what I keep thinking. But people are going, oh, well, it's, you know, she's... Yeah, don't get me wrong, she's incredibly good at her job. I'm not trying to argue against that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, there are some people going, oh, she's really good. She can do everything. Exactly. Well, it's not even steps to work up. It's not a particularly... You know, it's not a natural skill set to get into a TP job like that.
I think Pierre Wache, is that his name? Probably butchered it. But,
you probably butchered it, yeah. But
he could be in the running.
I mean, it's just... We've spoken about it before, haven't we? But Red Bull is just absolute, like... The race car is the only thing that's still going somewhat well, and even that's not looking fantastic at the moment. Like, Red Bull's downfall is... And what worries me as well, of course, is this is all coming when they're trying to make the biggest step ever in becoming a factory team.
Yeah.
Like, this Red Bull could genuinely be completely crippled by everything going on at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And it's, you know, it's bad signs for the Verstappens because...
Well, it's bad signs for Formula 1 because that's two teams, let's not forget.
Yeah, true. I don't think this is the writing on the wall. Like, they've
no, Red Bull have got enough money as an organisation that it'll never let the team go under. But, you know, we've seen in other motorsport series, we've seen obviously with their junior program anyway, if things aren't going well for long enough, Red Bull will pull the plug. And that would be an utter disaster.
You know, they gave it a long time when it was bad in 2015 and like 14 to, I guess, 18 really, wasn't it? It was all kind of bad.
No, but they got a couple of wins here and there most of those years still, so it wasn't the end of the world.
Won't win as soon as Verstappen leaves.
I wouldn't surprise me with the new regs if suddenly they ended up, you know, a little way off.
I guess so, maybe. But
especially if Verstappen went, if you lose kind of that X factor.
He's pretty much locked in, isn't he, until the end of 2025.
When is any Red Bull driver ever locked in? You can't say that about a Red Bull driver, JB, ever.
That's
we
what
know
it sounds
this.
Like. But yeah, maybe you're right. It's all a bit up in the air. But yeah, it's still this power struggle, and losing Wheatley, who's probably on Horner's side, by the sounds of it, will not be positive for the team. Put it that way.
You can't let Helmut Marko run a Formula 1 team.
Oh, he won't. There's no chance. I mean, Marko is TP. No chance.
Yeah, I imagine he'd like to. I mean, he'd just show up for his first team principal interviews thing and just spout out racism, wouldn't he?
Yeah, and be like,
who are you looking for next year? We've heard Lewis Hamilton's on the market. Oh, good God, no. Not having him. You're just horrendous, isn't it?
Sadly, that probably is accurate, but we will...
Oh, it's not probably accurate, it's definitely accurate. He's a horrible man.
Yes. But we'll talk about Audi, because Jonathan Wheatley's going there, probably.
Maybe. Audi don't know it yet, but he is.
Yeah, Audi haven't said it yet, but they're
What is going on with them?
Who knows? They bought Sauber, obviously.
But then they haven't bought Sauber yet, have they? They're still in the process of buying Sauber, I thought.
No, they bought 50%, or 49.9, or whatever it was, at the start of this year. And
but they were buying... but they were buying the rest of it earlier than originally intended. It still feels like at the moment, isn't it, that they're kind of going, we've bought an absolutely stinker of a team. Like, we'll start pumping money into it, but we're not going to associate with it whatsoever until it's actually delivering.
Can you blame them?
Oh, no, absolutely not. But it is just bizarre, isn't it? The fact that, we've kind of got no build-up, no hype for it or anything.
I think it will start as soon as those ugly green and black cars are in the bin at the end of the season.
But Kick Sauber announced a 2-year deal, though. I thought that was the whole thing at the start of the year. It was a 2-year deal.
Yeah. Yeah, so Hulkenberg's joining Kick Sauber technically, and then going to Audi.
It's going to be one of those things, isn't it, where January 1st, 2026, the app gets changed, all of the graphics get swapped out, and suddenly Audi are tweeting 6 times a day about precision Deutsch engineering and things like that.
And don't think about the last 2 years when we were finishing P20.
When we didn't score a point since, like, Qatar 2023. Will Kick Sauber... I know I keep asking you this and your answer keeps changing because it's hilarious. Will Sauber score a point this year?
Yeah, they will.
He's gone back to it. It's wonderful.
Did I say no recently?
Yeah, you said no last time round when I asked you a few weeks ago.
I think they will. Yeah, Bottas said in an interview they're getting closer.
Yeah, but they can't get further away.
By that, he means they finished P16 in Hungary and P15 in Belgium. So, know, it's on the up.
And they're still having mechanical issues, which seems very, very rare now, unless you're Alpine.
Yes. Yeah, it would be a shame if you're forced to support Kick Sauber for the rest of this year and the next 2 years, isn't it?
Sorry?
If one of your favourite drivers is going to Audi, that would be terrible.
Oh, yes, sorry. I think you were making a jab at me then. I was going, I don't care.
No, I have to.
You have to, by law.
Yeah. I never thought I'd see the day when I'm sad that Hulk is leaving Haas to go to a factory Audi team.
Oh, man, it's so funny. So, 2026, they'll be better, surely. But who knows? Who knows? Have we got anything else to add, Jamie? We've rattled through a lot that we wanted to.
I think that's good. Well, I want to say Liam Lawson or Bottas is the driver to be Hulkenberg's teammate, probably. But as I've put my colours on the mast, it's going to be Liam Lawson.
Fair enough. I like it. Thank you all so much for listening, as always. If you have enjoyed, please do make sure you drop a sub, drop us a follow, all that good stuff. Like we said, Jamie's away again, so we're a little bit still all up in the air. But we are going to try and get at least one show a week as we go through summer break as well still, which is always nice. But yeah, thank you all so much as always for listening, and we will be back very soon with more Knowing Wheel.